What's up, everybody that has tuned in so far? Hope everybody's doing well. What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's staying cool. I don't know where you're located, but man, it is really friggin' toasty here in New Hampshire. Been a fun day. If you've been following the Boston Bruins offseason shenanigans, seems like there's been some developments today in the potential move of Linus Ullmark, but obviously a deal hasn't been finalized yet. So we're sitting here waiting for more news on that front. It'll be interesting to see what the package ends up being and if he ends up being dealt to Ottawa. But very much a TBD scenario right this second. Give me one quick moment. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. When your kid calls you, you go. So, anyways, you have anything we want to talk about? Feel free to throw that into the comments section. Happy to take any questions or any thoughts from anybody that's watching. But from what I've been hearing right now through a few different sources, not that I'm pretending to be an insider, but people that are insiders, it looks like there's a lot of smoke going on to the Linus Allmark to Ottawa trade situation, which I find very fascinating. And if you've paid attention to the podcast, we've talked about this multiple times, that we do believe it would be poor asset management for the Boston Bruins to not move Linus Allmark. Bjorny, what are you doing, buddy? Hey, you gonna get on camera? Come on. You gonna be a guest? Go be a guest star? Come here. Who's good boy? Yeah, it's good boy. No, you can't have my pizza. Don't touch it. Yeah, even really well plugged in insiders like Elliot Friedman has come out and said that there is smoke to it. It looks like it's pretty well along. It looks like it's pretty well along and close to at least the final negotiation stages. Elliot Friedman also said that the Ottawa Senators were in on Linus Ullmark before the trade deadline wrapped, but then the Bruins were offered a more compelling trade option that they tried to evaluate, which didn't quite come to fruition for one reason or another. So it's very interesting for me to hear that they have looped back, especially now that Calgary has dealt Jacob Markstrom to the New Jersey Devils. The Devils were very much a team that was involved and interested in acquiring Linus Ullmark's services, but they ultimately decided that the Markstrom deal was more viable and attainable. I probably assume the price was probably a little bit less than what the Linus Ullmark deal was. But now it just seems like a lot of the suitors for Linus Ullmark may be kind of dropping off a wee bit. What's up, Hogan? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for popping in today. 4:28 p.m. What do I have my time zone all messed up on this bad boy? Interesting. Yeah, so I'm just trying to stay on top of things. If I hear anything that's interesting, I'm going to share it on stream. Additional things that I have heard, and I don't know how true they are, is that I have heard that Linus Ullmark has indeed expressed an openness to waiving his no trade clause for the Ottawa Senators, which is an interesting development. I do understand that Ottawa was originally on his list for the no trade, but I imagine the fact that Daniel Alfredson is playing such a role in the front office with the Ottawa Senators now, and he has that Swedish connection. Linus Ullmark is not one of those Europeans that has just kind of disregarded his lineage and just become Americanized and lives over here like some of them do. You know, he very much still maintains the fact that he's Swedish and he spends his off seasons over there in Sweden with his family. And that was a big reason why he was hesitant to accept the trade to whatever team. There's been some speculation that it wasn't actually Los Angeles that he nixed the trade to at the deadline. But there's been some speculation that proximity and ease of getting back home to Sweden, you know, to and fro. Jesus Christ, I can't talk tonight. To and from may have played a role in him accepting or not accepting a deal. But it's very interesting. With the news that he is willing to go there, that eliminates the biggest obstacle, which is the no trade clause for Linus Ullmark and the Ottawa Senators. So now it just comes down to GM Steve Stais of the Ottawa Senators, who's relatively new in his position, and Don Sweeney coming to an agreement on a fair compensation package for the former Vezina Trophy winner. We got NHL free agency happening. Not yet, Hogan. Not yet, buddy. For those of you that don't know, Nick is my wonderful co-host. Actually, he's probably the host. I'm probably the co-host on Rings and Things, our brand new gaming podcast. So check us out on Twitter. That is Rings and Things Pod. That's RINGSNTHINGS POD. So if you like nerdy shit and you like to dabble in, you know, old school consoles, PC gaming, whatever, check us out. We would love to have you listen in. But no, NHL free agency is not until July 1st. I just figured I got some time on my hands and, you know, the stove is hot right now. A lot of rumors going around. Linus Ullmark is the number 2 player on a lot of trade watches right now. So with a lot of the traction going on today and a lot of the big names out there talking about it, why not? Let's jump on. Let's do a live stream. Let's test this thing out before the free agent frenzy on July 1st. My wife is out of town. Kids have their food. Let's get a little silly here. Our dog 74. I'm going to be checking the news on this every half hour, and it's probably not going to happen for another week. Yeah, I mean, I did send out a tweet earlier today, especially from some sources. Dom Tiano, who has played a pretty big role on the HF board side of things for a long time. He's always been pretty well plugged in. He broke the Hampus Lindholm trade far in advance before it happened. Um, he he's been pretty well on top of this, and he said that the Boston Ottawa potential deal is pretty well tied up with the reported on Philadelphia Ottawa deal, which involves the Philadelphia Flyers trading up from 12 to 7, I believe. I don't necessarily think the Bruins end up with either of those picks, but there's some potential that that does happen. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if that actually happens or if the Boston Bruins and the Ottawa Senators can work out a trade between their two teams without having either of those teams, or sorry, without having any of the assets involved from the Philadelphia Flyers. On that note, is Philly very much in the mix still? Everything that I've heard is that they are still in the mix. And some of those assets, whether it's a player from Philly or just the draft capital that the Sens get in return for whatever deal that they're doing with them, very well maybe flip to Boston in this deal for Linus Ullmark. Earlier today, it was said that the biggest obstacle to that deal was Linus Ullmark waiving his no trade clause. It seems like that's no longer a problem. So I'm very interested in seeing what that looks like. You've got TSN Simmer putting out a statement that it seems like that is way overkill for a price for Linus Ullmark, the rumored return of Jacob Chikrin, a first round pick and another pick. It seems like, to me, from what I'm seeing here, it seems like Steos is pleased with the fact that Ullmark has finally accepted Ottawa as a viable destination. Once again, this is complete speculation. Don't read anything else into this. But Steos is happy with the fact that he's gotten Ullmark to buy in on Ottawa. And now he's trying to posture via the media. Once again, Simmer works for TSN, or at least his X handle says TSN in it. I'm pretty sure corporate wise they wouldn't allow that to continue if he's no longer affiliated with the company. But he was saying that why wouldn't the Senators reduce their offer now that they have that acceptance? So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. Something else that I think is interesting that's come out in the last couple of days is that some people that are pretty well plugged in on the Leaf side of things, um, they're talking about how pending Bruins free agent forward Jake DeBrusk has mutual interest with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I do find that fascinating. Can you imagine? Like, I very much associate Jake DeBrusk with being a Leafs killer, right? Those playoff series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know. Exactly. Jake DeBrusk, a Toronto Maple Leaf. Unbelievable. I don't think I could support him. Like, if he goes out west and goes home, totally get that. I would be happy to support him. Jake DeBrusk in an Edmonton Oilers uniform? Absolutely. You're a hometown kid. You grew up in Edmonton. Jake DeBrusk in a Flames uniform. Albertan, go home. Go have fun, dude. Anywhere in the West Conference. Even Even if he signed with the Carolina Hurricanes, like, whatever, dude. You do you. You've obviously wanted a change of scenery for a bit now. You deserve it. It's like when Krug went to St. Louis. Yeah, man, especially right on the heels of losing to them in the Cup final. Like that really chapped my ass when he went over there. That was rough. It also came out this week that pending free agent Oscar Steen will not remain part of the Boston Bruins nor the Providence Bruins. Oscar Steen was granted permission from Don Sweeney, his agent, to seek out employment opportunities from other NHL franchises. So Oscar Steen and his fantastic quads will be moving on to another NHL franchise or maybe even overseas to a SHL team. Tommy, buddy, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for popping in. Pipeline dream, but Ehlers to Boston would be great. I think that would be really interesting, actually. You know, Ehlers is more of a winger, but he provides some scoring opportunity and some skating speed. He would be an excellent replacement for Jake DeBrusk, as far as I'm concerned. The question is, what the hell would the Winnipeg Jets want in return? I have a feeling that price would be high, and it's not like they need a goalie, right? They obviously have, Connor Hellebuck in net. Excuse me. So it would take some interesting maneuverability to make that happen. Maybe you acquire Chikrin in the deal for Linus Ullmark, and then you flip Chikrin over to Winnipeg for Ehlers, because I can see Winnipeg needing a defenseman and having an interest in Jacob Chikrin. Bye, Steen. Bye, Steen. Tommy, is there a world where you keep DeBrusk and add Ehlers or any other scoring winger? I mean, a lot of people that know a lot and are well plugged in are saying that there is still a distinct possibility that the Boston Bruins retain Jake DeBrusk's services. But I do not subscribe to that ideology. I believe that if Jake DeBrusk wanted to be a Boston Bruin, he would have already signed here. And I'm not saying that Don Sweeney, his word is law or anything. It's not like he's always truthful when he's talking to the media, right? But he did say that the Boston Bruins were rather aggressive in negotiations to retain Jake DeBrusk's services. And Jake has already in the past, obviously, when he had how do we say this, a differing opinion than coaching, he had requested a trade in the past. Obviously, he rescinded that trade request when there was a coaching transition here in Boston. But he's displayed an expression of interest in the past to look at alternatives. And I think right now, with the potential of having alternatives so close in the mirror, I believe that Jake DeBrusk will be hitting free agency to see what opportunities are out there. But like I said, there are people that are more plugged in than I am and know more than I do that are saying that you shouldn't close the door on Jake DeBrusk returning to the Boston Bruins yet. So if Jake returns, that's filling one top six winger spot, right? Jake has been a reliable top six winger. He can play on the PK. He can play really good 5-on-5 minutes. He's a good power play option, especially on the net front. He's got good hands. If they keep Jake DeBrusk, I don't see them really prioritizing the dollars on another top six winger, unless it's somebody like Tyler Bertuzzi that they already have proved that they could have chemistry with David Pastrnak. And I do think Bertuzzi could end up coming back to Boston this offseason. He's always said really positive things about the Boston Bruins. So my long-winded way of answering you, Tommy, is that I don't believe that if DeBrusk signs to return to Boston, that they're going out there and being tremendously aggressive on the winger side of things. They're going to be definitely prioritizing the center ice position up front. Appreciate the comments, guys. Keep them coming, man. Gives me something to talk about instead of bullshitting this. At this point, I might have to just throw a game on and treat it like I'm a Twitch streamer. Keep or yeet Pat Maroon? Good question. It was interesting seeing a lot of the content coming out from the Boston Bruins front office postseason about how much of a presence Pat Maroon was in the clubhouse. You know, they had positive things to say about Kevin Shattenkirk too, but I don't want to keep Kevin Shattenkirk. I think that Pat Maroon, he said the right things at the year-end press conference, right? He said that he believes that he has more to prove and he feels like he owes this team and that the Boston Bruins they were the best team he's ever been a part of. Which I really thought was fascinating. And I'm paraphrasing there. That's not an exact quote, but he had really positive things to say. One second, my daughter's calling me. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Like I said, my wife's out of town, so I'm on solo dad duty. So I might need to step away every once in a while to answer questions from the kiddos and help them out. Um, anyways, keep or yeet Pat Maroon. I think that there's a spot on this team for a guy like Pat Maroon. I think that a healthy Pat Maroon could be a great 13th forward type scenario. You know, you go up against a heavy team, a team that's, like Ottawa that we've been already talking about with the Linus Ullmark situation. You know, Brady Tkachuk starts running around acting like an idiot. Having Pat Maroon out there with the final 5 minutes of the game, it's not a bad option to have. It's not a bad quiver in your not a bad arrow in your quiver there. I personally would be more than happy to extend a contract offer to Pat Maroon for 1 year at league minimum. Whether he's willing to do that, I don't know, because I'm pretty well sure he could hit free agency and go sign to the team like the San Jose Sharks for like a 2-year term at like 2 million each. So it just comes down to what he's prioritizing in his career. Like what, you know, back up what you're saying with actual fact. Tommy asks, how do you feel about Foley or Marchessault for wingers? Centers, Lindholm, Stevenson? Um, I'm okay with both of those wingers. They're a little older than what I would like. Marchessault's probably ideally my preferred solution over Toffoli, only because I feel like Toffoli has been around every team. Like he's already played for Winnipeg, he's played for New Jersey, he's played for oh god, I think he played for Montreal, he's played for LA. Like, and I'm not saying this is necessarily his fault. It may be his like a result of what his agent's doing. But I generally don't want to acquire somebody that is bouncing around from team to team to team to team to team. Because if he was really that good of a fit in a locker room, they would have gotten a contract from someone, right? They would have found a home by now. So something inherently isn't a great fit with Tyler Toffoli, in my opinion, from what I'm reading, for that to be something that I'm tremendously appealed in. Great trade acquisition at the deadline for scoring punch, but not really somebody I'd prioritize in free agency. Now, Jonathan Marchessault, that guy has been loyal to the Vegas Golden Knights after being cast off And I would love to bring that guy in, but it all depends on the term for him. He's up there right now. I don't even know how old he is. I'm looking it up. Don't eat my pizza. No, don't touch it. 33 years old, which is fine. Like, I would even be okay with signing Marchessault to a 3-year deal, right? So, I would prefer of those two, Jonathan Marchessault on the winger side of things. Centers, Lindholm, Stevenson, I would be calling them both as soon as free agency opens up if I'm Don Sweeney to understand if either of them are particularly interested in the Boston Bruins. Because if I don't hit on one, I'm going to try to go for the other one, right? My preference would be Elias Lindholm. And the reason for that is I think he plays a little bit more of a savvy two-way style game. You move Pavel Zacha from center to the wing, opposite wing of David Pastrnak, and you put Lindholm in the middle. And Lindholm plays that style of game that allows Zacha, who's a great playmaker, and Pastrnak, who also is a good playmaker, but is also an elite level finisher, to really play their game. And I'm not comparing Lindholm to Bergeron, but he is still kind of like that safety blanket to allow elite offensive wingers to be elite offensive wingers. And I would be willing to extend a lot of term and a lot of dollars to bring a guy like Elias Lindholm to the Boston Bruins. Chandler Stevenson is kind of like my number 2 target, and he plays the game a little differently. He's more pure offense as far as I'm concerned, and he's a much faster skater than what Elias Lindholm is, but he's not as cerebral, but still could definitely play a big role in the Boston Bruins top 6 center ice position, whether that's 1C or 2C. Because everyone and their mother knows that the Boston Bruins are better off if Charlie Coyle is their second line center or third line center. Maroon saying we're the best team after playing only half a season. It wasn't even half a season. While also being on some very successful Tampa teams is interesting. That is interesting to me. I 100% agree. Because he played for his hometown St. Louis Blues that beat these Boston Bruins in the Cup final that he just so very generously reminded us all about on social media. And he played on those very deep, very successful Tampa Bay Lightning teams. He's played on really high-end teams. And he came out and said that this Boston Bruins team was the best team he's ever been a part of. Very interesting. About Toffoli, New Jersey couldn't agree on term. That was the issue. Yeah. I mean, how old is Tyler Toffoli? Tyler Toffoli. 32. I'm older than him. I'm an old fart. Anyways, 32-year-old guy. Exactly. Exactly. He wants 5 years. He's 32. I'm not signing Tyler Toffoli till he's 37. No way. Not at the dollars he's going to want. Like, I'll tell you what, I will sign Tyler Toffoli for 5 years if he wants to sign at 1.5 million. He's not going to do that. But I'll commit my term to you if you want to sign for that low. I'd be shooting myself in the foot if I signed Tyler Toffoli that low. This year's free agency could have some poorly aging contracts. Every free agency has some poorly aging free agent contracts. But the difference with this year is that we've seen a tangible jump in the available cap space, right? Escrow's paid off now, and we're going to continue to see that rise. And we're all going to have to kind of reassess what market value is for a player as the cap continues to rise. Exactly, R Dog 74. My point exactly. Yep. I mean, that's my concern about Chandler Stevenson, right? That guy is 30. Boston Bruins throw a 5-year deal at Chandler Stevenson. He's going to be signed till he's 35. Just trying to catch up on the latest, see if there's anything else that have come out. All right, I'm going to scarf down a bite to eat while I'm looking up the latest. So bear with me here. Give me like 3 more minutes. Sorry. I'm scarfing down one more slice of pizza. Nobody wants to watch that. All right, so let's do something fun here. What I would like to do is just go through HF boards and share some threads. What, Amelia? Yeah. What do you need? Okay. So give me one moment and I'll get this lined up here. I'm sitting here talking to myself and I'm muted. So Tommy asks, Ottawa seems to be the favorite for Linus Ullmark. Do you think a dark horse team chimes in? Carolina, Detroit. What would you want in return if it's not Ottawa? It seems like Don Sweeney is really looking for a first round pick and a roster player, if at all possible. I mean, that's the rumored return that it would take for the Ottawa Senators to acquire Linus Ullmark. So, um, I think the smoke is there with Ottawa because they're very desperate to get a goalie. I haven't really seen that level of desperation from Carolina or the Detroit Red Wings, but Steve Yzerman is also notoriously good at keeping things close to the vest, right? You didn't really hear much about what was going on in Tampa Bay until he did it. So I don't think that price really shifts. A first round pick, whether it's this draft, next draft, and a roster player, whether that's a centerman, a winger, a defenseman. Like Jacob Chikrin is no spring chicken. Former first round pick. Logged a lot of heavy minutes for the Arizona Coyotes. So it'll be pretty interesting to see if Linus Ullmark is not dealt to the Ottawa Senators and he is dealt to another team, what a package like that would look like. RDog74 again. I always thought Colorado could be a possibility if they move on from Georgiev. I think Georgiev has been doing pretty good for the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, they won a cup with Darcy Kemper. So I think if they could do well with Georgiev again, they just need to play better systemic defense. So I don't know. There was rumors that Colorado was in on Ullmark at the deadline, that they could have been the team that was, you know, turned down by Linus Ullmark, and it wasn't LA. But it's interesting. Tommy says, for some reason, I can see Gensel signing in Colorado. I could see that too. Colorado seems to be pretty aggressive when it comes to making personnel changes. They were pretty active at the trade deadline. It wouldn't surprise me to see that as well. I have heard that Gensel will not be interested in negotiating with the Pittsburgh Penguins after how he was treated. Frank Saravalli seems to think that Gensel will be going to Vancouver, but it is Frank. Yeah, Frank's been wrong before plenty of times, as every insider is that uses speculation, right? But I could see that. I believe that they've thrown a lot of money at Zadorov and at Lindholm and have been basically informed that it's not gonna get it done and they wanna test free agency. So what do you do when you have all that money available? You prioritize finding somebody to play with Elias Pettersson because everything's done in pairs, right? Every good team has their pairs. You know, the Bruins for the longest time was trying to find a good partner and a good pair for David Krejci because they had that Bergeron-Marchand pair that they were able to work off of. So, I believe that the Vancouver Canucks are prioritizing a lot of money toward finding that pair for Elias Lindholm because they have that JT Miller, Brock Besser pair that's working really, really well right now. Tommy says, with Nichushkin suspended and no word on Landeskog, it makes sense. Yeah, right? Like, fool me once, like, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? This is the second time Nichushkin has done, he's made really poor choices and it's impacted his team. If I'm the general manager of the Colorado Avalanche, I don't care what the players' assistance program says. Like, I'm going to find a way outside of the CBA or within the realm of legality to get that guy off my team because this is the second time during the postseason he has costed my team. Nichushkin was leading the Colorado Avalanche in goals scored in the postseason when that ruling came down because he can't stay away from the nose candy. So, allegedly, I don't know if that actually happened, but that's what I had heard. So, you got to move on. And no word on Landeskog. I do believe that Landeskog will be back. If he wasn't going to be able to come back, I think he would have retired. They had a big press conference at the end of the season in Colorado, and they said that Landeskog is not retiring. And I think that includes, the LTIR retired situation, the proverbial Stefan Robida Island that existed in Toronto for a long time. So I still don't know what happened the first time. I don't know the exact details, but we all heard the reports of the person that was brought to the hospital with elevated alcohol levels and blah 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 blah. And yeah, we don't need to go any further into this. Just not a great situation for Nichushkin or the Colorado Avalanche. But anyway, here is the mock trade, a proposal that was posted to HF boards. I want you guys to give me your feedback here. Ottawa out. They trade pick number 7, pick 112, Eric Brandstrom and Josh Norris. Ottawa acquires 31 or 32, a late first round pick. Linus Ullmark, Morgan Geeky, friend of the show. Don't you trade Linus or Morgan and Scott Lawton. Philly trades 12, 31, 32, and Scott Lawton. They bring in number 7, number 112, and Eric Brandstrom. Here's the interesting part. Boston trades Linus Ullmark and Morgan Geeky and gets number 12 overall and Josh Norris. What do you guys think of this deal? I honestly don't think it's awful, but I don't really want to trade Geeky away. Like, he's an asset right now. I don't really see the purpose of it. Like, just trade away Ullmark. We don't need to overcomplicate this. Yeah, friend of the show. We don't trade him. You hear that, Army? Don't do it. Which team do you think is under the most pressure to have a strong offseason? For me, it's Carolina. I don't know because Carolina has the new GM, right? So I think that kind of buys them a little bit of a grace period. At least with cap friendly blocked out, no more army mock off seasons. Yeah, no kidding, eh? Thank goodness. Seemed like every trade army was making ended up with Geeky being dealt out of Boston. I had to yell at him a bunch. Stop trading the friend of the show. Oh, this will be interesting. Hold on. Let me change my sharing. See if hopefully share tab audio. Yep. Okay. I talked about this guy earlier. TSP Simmer Down. What should the Sens give up for Linus Ullmark?
In your back pocket, you got 25. Not a chance I move in 7 for a goaltender. And is it in play? Anything's possible. But I'll say this. After Boucher being 10th, Chikrin 12, DeBrincat 7, when you look at Lassie Thompson, you look at, unfortunately, JBD, in my estimation, not being a full-time player, they have run out of picks and players. It's a real fine line. Would I trade it for a top 6 forward? Absolutely. Lock it in. Top 4D, maybe. For Ullmark and the goalie market, guys, historically, nobody pays that. And especially on a guy, even a contract.
That's not true. That's not true. New Jersey has paid that before for Corey Schneider. It was like 10 years ago. But Corey Schneider was also a young backup goalie on the heels of Exactly. Number 9 for Schneider says otherwise. Precisely. Thank you.
Contract extension for his age. Now, as far as numbers, people keep bringing up Boston, how he's done. His numbers in Buffalo are pretty darn good. I'm not worried about him coming to Ottawa, but I am not mixing in the 7th pick overall for Ullmark.
That's fine. Trade back to 12 with Philly. Give us 12. Pick up some value for trading back. It's not rocket surgery. See what else I can find that's fun. Well, this is interesting. Let's share this real quick. Yeah.
Coming off that Vezina season and having the year you had this year, another great season, you and Jeremy Swayman. And then obviously the logjam, right? You have him, obviously the trade talks, things that have gone on. Like, how did you deal with that, after the Vezina and, dealing with things just, as a pro here?
I think that was one of the things that I had to learn, by trial and error kind of thing. It's about experience because this was my first time actually being on the trade block. And with that comes certain expectations, and there's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of emotions going into every single.
So that right there, just acknowledge that Don Sweeney put him on the trade block. That was never documented. It was never documented. Now, Don Sweeney said that he evaluates all opportunities that comes to him. But Linus Ullmark just indicated that he was officially on the trade block, which is interesting.
Game, like there's a certain date for when the training deadline is over, and you kind of look at it and see, like, for us example, we had the rotation when we played every other game. So I knew coming in that, okay, these are going to be my starts going into the final day. So for me, it was really hard, just because I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't know what to do with it, because at the same time, there's the logical side of it and there's the emotional side of it, obviously the personal one. So you understand why the team are doing it, but at the same time you're like, okay, am I not enough? That sort of thing.
Interesting. That's going to be a must watch. Once again, that is coming from Nick Alberga, the Golden Muzzy. He was also the source that I referenced earlier regarding the mutual interest between Jake DeBrusk and the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is really well plugged in on Leaf stuff, so I don't believe that's bullshit. I believe that's legit. So I'm very interested in that. I'm going to go ahead. If you want to watch that on your own, I just retweeted it on the podcast Twitter account. Nice. All right. Anything else that's come out? Speculation. Where does Linus Ullmark go? Let's go through that one. I think we all expected and still expect Ullmark to be traded, especially since the Bruins have had a trade for Ullmark at the deadline that he blocked. Now that New Jersey has Markstrom and LA has acquired their goalie via the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, which was not something I expected to wake up to. Two of the prime candidates looking for goalies are off the board. So where does he go? Toronto and Ottawa are both looking for goalies. In Toronto's case, they have to bring in a goalie. They only have one under contract. We know Ottawa is looking for an upgrade. Problem is, I don't know how Boston would feel about sending Ullmark to a team in their division. Plus, Ullmark has a no movement clause. False. It's a 16-team no trade clause. Would he waive it for Ottawa? That's already been confirmed. They've been bad for years, and it looks like that might continue for a while. Toronto is good, so I suspect. Oh, sorry. The Toronto is good, so I suspect he'd waive for them, but I don't know that Boston would want to send Ullmark to Toronto where he would address their biggest need. But to me, Toronto and Ottawa are the obvious choices. Probably wouldn't stake anything on Kemper being the end game goal in LA, although who knows if he changes his mind about LA at this point. To me, Ottawa is more likely than Toronto. That is correct. I think Boston is going to get a big return after seeing what Markstrom wins for. I like that. Final year of his contract, so we want to go somewhere that can offer him a long-term extension where he'd be the clear-cut number one. Yes. Markstrom went for next to nothing. I wouldn't say a first-round pick is next to nothing. That's a little pessimistic. I understand people saying that the New Jersey Devils won that trade, but a first-round pick for a 34-year-old goalie that's very inconsistent is still a high price to pay. We're in LA and New Jersey on his 15-team, 16-team, by the way. No trade clause. I always doubt that somebody's waving for Ottawa, but maybe his list is just unconventional. I just think he doesn't want to leave. Yeah, that's basically it. To Ottawa for Chikrin. Needs to be more than that. Chikrin at first.
Carolina or Columbus? That's a cool point. Ullmark to Toronto for Tavares with $3 million retained. Nah, Columbus didn't come to mind for me either. But it didn't come to mind for me for Johnny Gaudreau either, and that came out of nowhere. Wow, this is some good insight here. Stuck Out here comes out with pure speculation here, but he either remains on the Bruins or plays for another team. That's some hard-hitting analysis that we all need. Ottawa, Detroit, Colorado, Washington, Columbus, Carolina. I think we can safely cross Columbus off the list. Elvis Merzlikins is staying, says Don Waddell. No trade, no buyout. All right, gang. I'm gonna try to get my kids to bed here soon, but really appreciate you guys tuning in. This is really more of a technical test for us here for the free agent frenzy coming up on July 1st. If you don't know, like I said, we are going to be having a live stream on July 1st starting at 11:30 a.m. We're going to be breaking down all of the Boston Bruins signings and signings around the league. Have the day off of work, so no distractions. Really looking forward to breaking it down for y'all. So I'm going to probably kill things here momentarily. Really appreciate you guys coming out. And then also some other really cool, fun news. I am actually going to be going to Boston Bruins development camp on July 3rd. And we're going to be live. We're going to be recording an episode of the Two Pad Stack from development camp at Warrior Ice Arena at a season ticket holder event after I was reached out to by the Boston Bruins. So really excited to record an episode from Warrior Ice Arena, from where the decisions are made for the Boston Bruins that we're going to be breaking down on July 1. So stay tuned for that episode coming out soon. The next episode, episode 44, will be coming out on Tuesday. Berge and I will be breaking down some of the speculation that we talked about on today's live stream. And yeah, really looking forward to chatting with you guys again soon. Once again, thanks for coming in, helping us test things out. And I will catch you later.